Well, here goes a short video about cutting firewood, and we'll just try to tell you everything I saw and did as we're flying around here. So today, this was recorded in the middle of January in a warm spell when things were melting. So after shoveling and digging out everywhere so I could actually work, fired up the drone, and then figured out how to make it circle around where I'm working in the middle of the firewood processor. And so it will just cycle around and around, and we'll get a 360-degree view of what's happening as we go. Conveyor belts going everywhere and things happening everywhere. So in the center of the processor system is my Palax firewood processor that's hooked to the 3-point hitch on the, it's not hooked to the John Deere, but it's being run with a power takeoff on the John Deere. On the left-hand side of the screen now we can see the RP300, which is the red one. And that one is a self-feeding shear that's being run with my red tractor. So all those smaller trees go into it, and it feeds it through and slices with a shear and splits them in half as it goes. And then everything, both of them, gets dumped down onto that old gray corn conveyor or hay bale conveyor, whatever people call them. It's actually, I believe it is a corn conveyor, and I rebuilt that thing. It has the regular old flat chain like in the old days that people use. And I bolted conveyor belting on in between each one of the paddles so that nothing ever gets caught underneath the paddles or in the chain or anything more. So that thing will just run for days and days without ever having anything jam up. And it used to be kind of a constant problem. I also put Teflon slides underneath the belt and chain. So I would expect that old gray conveyor will outlast me now. It should just never wear out other than the engine that's running it. And I think I'm going to convert it to hydraulic instead of that old noisy gas motor for a few different reasons. And of course, you'll have to stay tuned for all of them, but I'm not going to tell them all today. Anyway, so that's where the conveyors are set up, all going into that. There's this gray one in behind in the center that feeds into the red one. I can control it on and off because it's controlled by the tractor, the hydraulics on the green tractor. So I can throw a small tree straight on it and then straight down towards the red one whenever I want. And in the meantime, it shuts there. It does nothing, so I don't have any safety risk because I'm standing there working around it. We're processing poplar firewood here, 16-inch. And everything that goes through my Palax, and I'll usually be splitting it into quarters or sometimes into half, depending if it's small enough. But I was processing all the smaller stuff, and after a little while, I decided I'll shut off that red tractor, and so it didn't need to be processing anymore because there's no more big trees left over. But right now, we're just watching most of the big trees going through. So old John Deere tractor running it. My Bobcat that's parked there, I have a set of log grapples for it, but I don't use them too much. All depends on what what's going on. But today it was just there to clear and pile all the snow away. It was more than knee-deep snow and heavy and wet. It was an ugly job to clean that up. But so now we're looking straight away into the processor, and we're dumping this wood out that old gray conveyor into an old Heston hay stack. It's a stack hand or something like that is what it used to be. And we pulled it out and locked the gate open. So instead of having an old hay loaf kind of style looking full of hay, we just throw a bunch of firewood in there and hauled it over to Grandma and Grandpa's. Now we can't see that anymore, so we're just watching the firewood processor and the production of it. And the trees are on the left-hand side now. That yellow frame, that's actually a haystack mover. And the hitch is taken off of it. But it's designed to crawl underneath and self-load haystacks. But as you can see, it works really well for loading logs on there. You can throw the logs on and feed them ahead one at a time as it goes. I actually would like to find a second one so that I could put one side by side and it was twice as wide so that I can use full-length trees without being a little bit too heavy, because it has the risk of breaking that thing if I overload it. for right now. It works for stuff that's, 24 feet or something. So I decided at that point, there's no more small stuff that's going to come through the red RP300. That machine, the red one, I got it out of Poland. Well, actually, it was shipped from the States, but they come from Poland. So I shut the red tractor off and then decide that the rest of the 4 or 5 logs or whatever is left is going to be all too big to process through that small one anyway. So I'll just shut that tractor off and let it do its thing. So then I just finished those last half a dozen logs, cutting it through the pale-axe. But I would like to find another one of those yellow bucking frames, the haystack mover, because if they're side by side, I could have full-length trees. And as you can see, the drone is circling around over top of the log truck right now. So I pull in there with a load of logs, and I can lay them straight on there. And then I just feed them ahead a little bit, each one as I want. So I no longer have to roll them by hand, because there's a hydraulic motor I've got rigged up there to feed that. And so that's the long and the short of hearing me talk about everything that's going on as we're processing firewood there. In the background up behind there is an old, I think it's a potato conveyor. That's an electric drive one. I haven't finished setting it up yet. That's just one more thing for my estate sale, I guess, if I ever get it finished. There's the log truck now, you can see, but you've seen it before as the drone looked around. I have just another, 15 or 20 logs on the truck there. So when we were all done, then I fired up the old log truck and put them on the rollway so they're ready to go. But there was just one rollway load. I don't overload it usually, but that yellow frame will take about cord and a half, 2 cords of wood kind of is about all I ever stack on there. I'm afraid of breaking chains, the feeder chains or anything, if I get a little too greedy. It's not like it doesn't take time. It takes time to load it, but there's no sense in trying to wreck stuff because you're getting too much. But that old blue frame on the right side with that thing is worth its weight in gold. I'm glad I built that thing with its power rollers. It feeds right in onto the conveyor and I don't have any trouble. I also modified the conveyor on the infeed of the pale-axe. There's a little bit of a chute there, and then there's a little silver wheel rim is what it is on a bearing there to roll trees off into the other one to my right if I want. But anyway, that's the drone view of what everything is going on and how it looks at this time of year. In behind, there's also a light plant. I don't know if you've spotted that yellow light plant. That's big enough, I think, to run that old potato conveyor, but we haven't proven that yet. So we're still in the scheme and dreaming stage there. But in the meantime, we were cutting firewood on a sunny afternoon in the middle of January when it was above freezing. So count your blessings in that business, because during the wintertime of December, it was nasty cold. We didn't get any 40 below weather yet, but 35 is cold enough for me. I prefer to work in the heat instead of in the cold. And this was much better, so I enjoyed that. So all in all, I think we have about 2 cords of firewood that we processed out of here. And then we were done. By the time we ran out of those final trees in the end of it, the trailer was full. So one last loop around, look at the old John Deere. I raised the guard there because I had one tree fell in there cockeyed and would be shoved in sideways through the splitter. So then I raise the guard and pull that around so that it's not going to get stuck. And I decided I better look at the drone and see if it's going to run out of batteries or not. I was afraid it would run out of batteries and land, and then the dog would chase it or something like that. There in the background, I got my nephew Sterling helping get wood out of the road and stack it, and then Grandpa was standing on the ground there in that haystack wagon there. So we just stacked a bunch of wood right at the very end so that the wood wouldn't fall out as he transported it down the road a half a mile away to get it to his house. And then when we were done, we just put a sheet of plywood across that and a couple of ratchet straps to keep some tension in case nothing would fall out. Took it to their house, and it just parked there like a mobile woodshed. In the meantime, we're pretty well done. I was just telling Grandma about, we better watch if that drone runs out of batteries and lands over there in the where it was supposed to, on the ice where it was safe. It would only be safe as long as the dog didn't decide that he wanted to go grab it like he thinks it's a bird or something, or if a neighbor who I was expecting to come visit it would be just my dumb luck. The drone would run out of batteries and land over there on the road where it was safe until he come along and drove right over top of it. But obviously that never happened, thankfully. Anyway, I've been rattling on and talking way too long. So thanks for watching, and hopefully it was moderately interesting. At least it was to me, and I hope it was to you as well. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.